Plutus code and build Plutus applications as tests and tutorials to get a better pedagogical understanding of all the design patterns and techniques and common bugbears and so forth. Also, a lot of that stuff is going to help us in real world benchmarking. So we can do apples to apples comparisons of cost of running things on the network. So the next 30 days are going to be mostly comprised of that effort and activity. Then as stability is evident and the network is really looking solid and fun, we'll go ahead and upgrade the public testnet through a hard fork combinator event to basically run all the Alonzo stuff. It's kind of the next generation. And then we'll burn that in for a little bit. And then we'll immediately begin discussions with integration partners. So those are exchanges, wallets, custodians, and anybody else who's running Cardano infrastructure at the moment. Say, hey, you guys need to integrate against the testnet because things are moving very quickly. In addition to that, the next wave of Plutus people will be rolled into that public testnet. And our goal is to provide enhanced support. So we have a lot of people that we've brought on board to basically help people write Plutus applications and think about Plutus and work on documentation. For example, these 8 companies we've brought on board to build things, we're probably going to also do a deal to do pull request review and other such things. And so we're still working out some of the details about what the best SLA is going to be for developer support, but it's our goal to build a prominent ecosystem. For example, I'd love to see a Cardano Stack Exchange, and if we can get there, then what I'll do is make sure that our people actually read the Stack Exchange and answer questions. So that's an example of an interactive feedback loop that we have. And there's a lot of documentation improvements that need to be done, and we're currently working on that, and there's dedicated people for it. And we also brought in another program for optimization. So we have several optimization engineers, and all they're doing is just looking at areas where we can improve performance. And we've already seen a 60% improvement in performance from prior optimization efforts. And there's more work to be done because there's a lot that can be optimized in the system, because we build for correctness first, then optimization second, as many of you noticed last year with the launch of Shelley. So that's really that 60-day range. And then the goal is that as we're burning in with that 60-day range, that as we approach the tail of 90 days, to start having that reasonable conversation of strategy for when and how combinator. So the exact deadlines and discussions will be brought out in 3 days, and we'll have pretty graphics and nice discussion. We'll go through the whole program, but I wanted to give you guys kind of a brief, concise heads up about where we're at. We have internally Alonzo nodes running. The code is running on Alonzo. There's still a lot of bugs and kinks and things to get out, and there's still a lot of stability that needs to be improved as expected. And it's the exact same situation last year when we were deploying and building Shelley. And there's a boatload of things that need to be integrated properly, like the wallet backend. And we need to make sure that the Plutus application backend is portable. And we're doing everything in our power to make sure that that works in parallel and is speedy. And we've brought on a lot of extra QA resources. We've brought on a lot of part-time and temp dedicated people just to handle specific things. So we upgraded part-time, I should say, to full-time and all these kinds of things. And so we take this very seriously, and we're really excited about it. But, Alonzo is Alonzo because of you guys. And part of that is making sure that we have a broad group of developers who are there to lend a hand and some assistance with this new model and help people get their applications to a ship-ready state. So the next 90 days, that's a huge priority and focus of ours. The more you do, the better Alonzo is before Alonzo ships. And our goal is to make sure that this is as painless as possible of an upgrade for the network. Now, from the end user experience on the Daedalus side, there's probably not going to be much that you have to do other than you'll just get a notification that there's an update. It's an HFC event. We've been through this before with Mary and the prior hard fork combinator events. So you'll just basically upgrade, and that's that. That said, we really want to improve the browser experience for DApp browsing. And so we're having an enormous amount of discussions right now with the Roy guys and other people in the ecosystem about how do we make sure that you have a seamless browser experience for viewing dApps, curating dApps, and working with dApps? And this will require some additional standards, new CIPs to be written, and it will require some modifications of the browser interface through an extension. So we'll have more to say about that, not this time, but probably in the next 60 days, but certainly within 90 days, to make sure that a safe, secure, and really friendly user experience is brought to market. So this is probably going to be the busiest 90 days in my company's history and in the ecosystem's history. We're all going to work together to get this done, and there's an enormous amount to do still. And I hate delays, and I hate setbacks, and we've done everything in our power to try to de-risk things and parallelize things and build in redundancies and alternative plans and so forth. Now, all this said, stuff could come up, and it's important to manage expectations, but we're getting it done. And every week we see a lot more maturity than the week before. And in the next 90 days are going to be some of the most significant engineering our company's ever done. At that point, Cardano will have woken up completely on the smart contract side, ideally, and we are in a really good position for the next levels, the governance side and other such things, which will become majority focus. Now, glimpses into future technology is also going to happen. So at the end of this month, we're going to do a presentation on Mithril and a presentation on Hydra. So there's been a lot of progress with Hydra, and there's actually a new paper called Mithril, which is the light client approach for Cardano. I often believe Mithril, Hydra, plus Omega are the three core components of a cryptocurrency in the third generation to be competitive. So the fact that two of the three are now imminently in paper format, and they have prototyping teams behind them, is a really good sign. It means we can move a lot faster than we've moved before. And as soon as we get this giant smart contracts update out, we can then focus on those refinements alongside a lot of economic refinements as well. We've been doing an enormous amount of work also on the verification, certification of smart contracts. Not much to say. We'll give you guys an update on Alpha Frontier, but not much to say yet about what the overall certification plan is. And as many of you know, I'm intending on embedding that in a university. My hope would be University of Wyoming through an engineering institute. But we're in negotiations for that, and we'll see where that goes. There are many options and good places to do it. So train is moving. Things are coming along. Good to be back in the saddle here on Monday, 8 a.m. I'm ready to go. And you guys are ready to go too. We're all excited about it. We're all fired up about it. And the next few months are going to be some great months and some hard months and long months, challenging months. But I'm very proud of the community. Plutus Pioneers, we anticipated maybe about 200-300 people signing up, 1,500. Of which at least 500-600 are actually taking the course extremely seriously and really writing great code and really asking good questions. And there's a high level of engagement on the Discord. That's a great cohort to grow with. And we are definitely going to continue that program after we've done a refinement of it. Mastering Cardano is also underway. The book, Jim Caldwell is writing it, and University of Wyoming is working on that at the Blockchain Technology Lab that they have there. It'll be an open source Creative Commons publication, and we'll get into a delivery train soon where chapters are written on GitHub, one after another for community review. And we'll also be announcing probably at the end of June the start date of the Prism Pioneers program, so that people can build identity-oriented applications in addition to Plutus applications. And we'll probably roll that out concurrent with one of the Plutus Pioneers tracks. We will continue the Plutus Pioneers program. We'll just make sure that we keep adding to it and we keep refining it and so forth. But it's the home stretch, guys. It's the home stretch. So 90 days of hell, and we'll get through it. Now, just to manage expectations again, I'm not saying that 90 days from the date of this video that there'll be Alonzo on the mainnet. People over the internet just love conflating my words. What I'm saying is the most critical engineering path, integration path, coordination path, and community path is occurring over the next 90 days because so much has to come together and everybody's prepared for it. So we will be overloaded with that. That is my hope that within that time frame, we can do a hard fork combinator event. But unforeseen things can happen. And I'm telling you guys that up front. I'm just saying that this is the time when all the pieces come together and thousands of people start using those pieces and trying to break those pieces and so forth. Now, that said, we pride ourselves with great testing, great code, techniques like property-based testing. And so, for example, quick check. So we're not doing this blind. There's actually an enormous amount of thought and care that the engineers have put into trying to pull these pieces together properly and making sure that they work well, securely, and performantly. But there's an enormous amount of testing that needs to be done. And again, things can come up. That said, there are internally people running Plutus code, and there's an Alonzo node and so forth. These things exist. So we're fairly confident with the roadmap ahead and our delivery train. Our release cycle is every 2 weeks, and we're very confident with the team that we have. And we think that when we start rolling people into the network, that we're going to be pleasantly surprised with the results. But we are fully anticipating there's going to be some rough edges, which is why we brought in a parallel QA team to assist so that the delivery team doesn't have to slow down by context shifting to another area of the system. Okay. So every month you'll get a big update starting with this month. And we kind of talk you through what the rainbows, the colors of the Alonzo rainbow are and how we're going to roll these things out. And as I said, the very first stage is blue, and that's where we're going to bring in an alpha cohort, and they're going to beat the hell out of the system. And there's going to be rapid feedback for that first 2 to 4 weeks, because that's where the system is most unstable. And that's where the system has the most quality issues. And then as we get all of those kinks and bugs and integration problems out, then we roll a public cohort in. And then that public cohort, because by its size, is going to replicate what the alpha cohort did. And the goal here is to keep following that thread until we get to a point where the product is very solid. And then we'll initiate the hard fork combinator event. That said, when the alpha and beta nodes are running and they're in the hands of developers, that means that they actually can now start testing and running in a real environment their Alonzo applications. As many of you are aware, software does take a little bit of time. So things that are being written on the whiteboard or self-tested can now actually be tested publicly. So that means that we can start seeing the development of a Alonzo app ecosystem rather quickly, and we can get a lot of cooperation there. And as I said, my priority is to work with the community as they're building these things and provide help and support. Everything from answering questions about how the protocol works to formal verification, potentially through writing specifications, to other such things, and either through us or through partners to help people get where they need to go. It can be as simple as pull request review, which can help immeasurably for nascent applications, or perhaps even co-development if we see something that's really sexy and interesting in the ecosystem. So that's where we're at. Tune in on the 27th for the Cardano 360 episode. And as I said, it's going to be action-packed and some sneak peeks of various things like Mithril and Hydra, and also a lot of discussion about the formal layout. And our people put an enormous amount of thought and work into this. The delivery people have been going nonstop. So I really would like to thank Nigel and Jer Maroney and all the people on the delivery side, on the project management side, for going above and beyond the normal course of duty. They've worked a lot of weekends and they've put a lot of hours into this plan, and we're quite happy with where we sit. I'd also like to thank the engineers who continue to deliver actually on time. If you look at our release schedule, every 2 weeks stuff comes out and releases are cut. And they've had to do a lot of very difficult engineering in a very short period of time. And they've managed to do that quite well and with a lot of grace. So good news for the Haskell ecosystem, and good news for people who like professional shops. They've really exceeded themselves and done great work. Okay, so that's my brief morning update. As I tell the community, I always try to share things with you guys as soon as possible, and I always try to manage expectations as best I can. In the past, we didn't, because we were getting bad inputs. So I'd had slides that had dates on it, and I'd give you the dates that I had, turned out that the dates weren't real and we couldn't achieve them. But the difference between then and now, years later, is we professionalize the organization. And when we look at dates and delivery trains, if we're off, we're not off by months. We're off by weeks, usually, because of something exotic or unforeseen, or because a vendor didn't show up and deliver something as they promised on time. So we've gotten a lot better at orchestrating and managing all of that. It's important for people to understand that Cardano is not just a product of IOG. There are more than 10 development companies that work full time with dedicated teams on Cardano. And so there's an enormous amount of delivery interdependency with Cardano. And there's a lot of vendors who consume Cardano. I think there's almost 100 exchanges across the world that have listed ADA, and many wallets that have supported ADA, and a lot of custodians and financial infrastructure that are using ADA as well. So there's an enormous coordination problem and parallel infrastructure, from GraphQL interfaces to REST APIs to Rust to Haskell infrastructure, in some cases proprietary infrastructure written by the exchanges in Java or another language to support this. And so it's a bewilderingly complex project under the hood, and any change that's made to the way the core protocol works percolates through that entire structure. So an enormous amount of coordination has to be done for anything. The larger the project gets, the more coordination is required. So a lot of the unsung heroes are the people like Mel and others who handle this every single day. And they have to haggle with people, some cases who don't speak English very well, to get things upgraded in a timely fashion, or else some plank will not work the way as anticipated. And that's just the reality of a large distributed system with many users and many consumers. And smart contracts are only going to add more complexity to that system and more moving pieces to that.